Good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you're watching. Today, I want to talk about a subject that I think if I heard this, it would help me a lot in many of my relationships in the past. It's how to stop being gullible in relationships. How to stop being gullible. And I'm going to give you the definition of gullible. Gullible is easily persuaded, to believe something, easily deceived, tricked, too willing to believe anything that other people are telling you. So gullibility is what I learned at a very young age. And that's actually, they've done research that shows that a child has been through trauma and that have the pressure to perform or to see something and say something and just be able to realize that their world is falling apart and to see hypocrisy being played out, they start to question themselves, see trauma, see drama happening all around them. They start to actually judge themselves. They start to think that the way they perceive their reality is messed up. Sexual abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, financial abuse, major health illness in growing up, divorces, and difficult working, being bullied, being a victim. All the stuff that happened to us creates this lack of trust in our own self, lack of trust in reality. So no wonder we start to actually trust the wrong people. We don't see the red flags. We rebel against our own limits. We also rebel against somebody else's limit or what they say of who they are and what they say they can or they cannot do. And the thing that happens that I've seen a lot is that we tend to not see our faults. We tend to deceive our own self. We tend to want to be better, which is a good thing, but we're so better, so trying to be better. We could dive into books, dive into personal growth. We course correct every emotions that we have. We use the mind to deal with the heart, which is the wrong tool. It's like painting a room with a hammer. Good luck with that. So the heart is supposed to be dealt with the heart emotionally. Okay, so what is the deceitfulness that we encounter in relationship? I'm going to give you about 4 of them. There's a big, huge clue that we don't see that people are actually telling us, but we don't accept it as truth of what it is. Number 1, someone who constantly promise you to change, but they never really change. Or could it be you? Maybe you promised yourself to change, but you don't change. Think about that. If you keep promising yourself to change and you don't change, you're going to attract people like that. Every 4 personalities I'm going to talk about here, if it is us, we're going to attract that and we won't see it in someone else. The second thing is the person that treats you like a queen or a king only to treat you like a servant and a slave the next day or the next hour. It's like Jack and Clyde. You see one person one day and then they're completely different the next day. Number 3, someone who has potential to change, but they refuse to get help. They talk about the changes, but they don't actually take the action to change. Number 4 is someone who blames you for their own faults in their choice they make. So they blame you for their own fault. When you have all those 4, you have a person that obviously is telling you something, but we're not really listening to the character. We're not listening to the action, the consistent action over time. We keep blinding ourselves because we're still not trusting ourselves based on whatever happened to us as a child. And how do we shift that? Well, here's the reality of what an actual functional, truthful relationship looks like with somebody. Number 1, someone who's consistently willing to change. Their action is aligned with their words. Number 2, someone who treats you and loves you for who you are, even if you don't change. They love the good, the bad, and the ugly. They give you grace. You don't have to change. Okay. Now, of course, we want to shift and change and be better in our relationship. It doesn't give it an excuse to not do things or not be our best self. You don't have to shift and change for them. They love you for where you are and who you are. And number 3, someone who has the potential to change and actually does it. They get the help. They don't just talk about their potential. They get the help. They're busy getting the help. They're willing to get the help. They're willing to get the counseling. They're willing to get the coaching. They're willing to go to therapy. They're willing to do whatever it takes in order for your relationship with them to improve together. Number 4, it's someone who is responsible, who takes ownership of their own fault. Someone who takes ownership of their choices that they make versus blaming you. Someone who's quick to listen and slow to speak. Someone who is apologetic. They apologize. They take responsibility. It is not saying that someone that says, well, it's all my fault. That is not acknowledgement. You can't all your fault be constantly in self-pity and change. You're so focused on yourself that you want. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone that's willing to heal themselves, someone that's willing to go to the depth of their hearts and willing to shift and change without having you to change. It's not really changing when you say, I want you to change, but unless you change, I'll change. That's conditional change. You don't want that. Now, I broke down all the different types of people here, but I want to ask you, how are you? Are you somebody that's consistently willing to change and take action and align your words? Or are you someone that keeps talking about changing? Are you somebody who treats others with love and grace? Are you someone who has potential to change, but talks about it, but doesn't take the action? Are you someone who's responsible with their faults? Or are you someone that blames somebody else? You see, who you are, you will attract. So work on you first, and then you will be able to see yourself so you could see somebody else. So you won't be gullible to somebody that's showing you who they are and you're still not seeing it. So it starts with you unblinding you, okay? It starts with you looking at yourself in the mirror, you shifting. It starts with you. Stop being gullible to your own self, to your own excuses. And then you'll be able to see other people's either excuses or legitimate limits, the limits that they're really legitimate, they're limits, and you'll be able to accept that. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you want to be part of Discovering Your Authentic Self, it's a program that I do. Go ahead and put me and I'll reach out to you so we could together start removing the lies and exchanging them to truth of who you are, and now operating in that new authentic self. Thank you for watching.